welcome to tonight's edition. This is June 2nd, 2012. This is JMC Live from the JMC Ministry Studios here in Chillicothe, Ohio. I want to welcome our local viewers this evening because we're going to go right in to what's happening right here locally. But breaking news that I just saw posted, for those who know that I've been involved with Team Union Ministries, Ron Luce's daughter, who was in a horrific plane crash where 4 other members have died. She has been in Kansas recovering, and it's been 3 weeks from her burns of over 30% of her body. Through her counseling and physical therapy and all the medical attention, she has walked for the first time today without any assistance. That's breaking news of the day. I want to get right into what our local viewers have come to the program this evening for, which is more coverage and an understanding of what this whole middle finger, I call it Birdgate kind of issue. Like, what does all this stuff mean? How does this work? I gave you guys in the Facebook just a little while ago a preview of one of the articles, and since I've already shared that, I will share with you the Time U.S. article. Do you really have the right to flip off a cop? Now, this evening you will find out through court dockets, through several media publications like Time and others, ACLU, the Tim TV versus the Gazette, posting about the car, and we'll actually show you actual prior cases of this event occurring, and what does this mean for Chillicothe, Ohio, and how does this go next. So let's go into the Time article. For those of you that are actually watching live on the live stream player, you can actually see this article. All articles, everything we talk about, will be posted in the podcast and YouTube for your later viewing to verify the authenticity of what we are talking about, because we always love to prove our point. We don't want to just have hearsay. We don't want to just make an opinion. We want to educate people so you have a better reasoning. And yes, as a ministry, we do not support people using the middle finger. Now, of course, me being a communication studies major and I'll be graduating in about a year from now, I can also tell you from being a missionary, this finger here in America is a cuss word. Well, this whole hand up, depending on what country I am, I just did the same thing. I could turn my hand and do it this way. It could be this, it could be that. Our hands and the way we use them, these mannerisms, this is the first thing I wanted to cover real quick, and you're just hearing it, not seeing it, for those of you who are in the chat that are watching this Time U.S. Story. It means different things depending on where you're at. Now, the most interesting thing that I saw in this Time U.S. article was this guy, David Hackbart, was mad. He's 34, and he was attempting to back up into a spot, but the driver of the car behind him refused to back up and gave him a sufficient move, and he stuck his hand out the window and gave him a finger. Of course, this is not a cop, but this went to court, and everything got involved with the ACLU. Here's the ACLU's point. And the point of the ACLU, you'll find out, and locally here, they're talking about, is it a state's disorderly conduct law? Can this actually happen? Is this the way it should really work? And honestly, when you read the postings here from the legal director, Witold Vic Walczak of the American Civil Liberties Union, here's his little quote, and I'm getting it ready for you. He says, the law is clear that people have the constitutional right to use profanity, especially when it comes to government officials, because that is a form of political speech. But despite that, we have police officers regularly misapplying the law to punish people who offend them. That's what it comes down to. Now, that's what I really wanted to show you the most about this one little article here. I wanted you to understand the legalities of what's going on. And as I said last night, I don't want to talk about this stuff because I don't have a problem with police officers. I don't have a problem with Officer Moore. I have a problem with the event. I separate officers from their actions in this. And I know many people can't do that because this is something that can be corrected. It's not etched in stone. It's not like there's no way you can fix this. There's always a way this stuff can be fixed. The reason why I wanted to cover this article, because it opens up the conversation about what happened here locally. And like I said, for everyone else, they were kind of wondering, do you have the court documents? And I was like, yes, I have the court documents because we talked about last night about it being Friday. And yes, that's what it was supposed to be. The event's supposed to have occurred, the trial was supposed to occur actually Friday. And I know the law, I have a right to share this, but I'm not sharing the party involved. It is very clear that when you have cases like these, you do not try and defame and try and spread around, and that's what everybody I know that has asked for. I'm not giving you that information. But for those of you that are knowledgeable, who can figure out where to go to find this, you can find it on your own. It's public record. I'm not sharing it, but I will share with you what we did find. Here it is. The Chillicothe Municipal Court, and this is on the informational case number, and I'm not going to finish it, but you'll see Officer Morris was the one that was involved. He's the one who wrote the ticket. You will see the date, 5/24, and the ticket number. And you'll see C093311 ticket number, section 50903A2, a minor misdemeanor and disorderly conduct. Hearing date is supposed to be June 1st at 9 a.m. This is public record. I'm not making this up. You can find this at Chillicothe Municipal Court. This is why we said about Friday. Now, I also am completely aware that because that was originally set earlier in the week, that is not what went and transpired in the end. Here's what happened. When you further look into the event, into the Chillicothe Municipal Court, you'll actually find out the updated docket and when everything was actually occurred. And this is why I'm going this far, because this is more information than most people get. So you'll end up seeing the same information. It's related to the same case number, 524, case filed court, set for arraignment, 6/1/2012 at 9 a.m. Then you'll notice 531, which is Thursday, notice of appearance and plea of not guilty filed by the attorney Aaron McHenry. This is the only thing that was posted. I looked at this about 4 or 5 hours ago. I haven't seen the other updates. I was hoping there would be an update for yesterday or today that this has already been settled out of court. Court date and trial and all that stuff is to be determined. There's a gag order, as we said. Nobody is going to do anything. Now, interesting enough, you'll find out that through my research on prior trials, that the obscene language or the obscene gestures, I'm just going to show you, and this might go over some people's heads, and maybe it won't. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to show you snippets of actual articles found from another related article we'll talk about, found at wired.com. But I want to show you these 4 related trials that have happened here in America, showing what's happened. Here's the first one. Pennsylvania State 5503A3 2005, providing a person is guilty of disorderly conduct if with intent to cause public inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm, or recklessly creating the risk thereof, he or she uses obscene language or makes an obscene gesture. Now, this happened in another state. This is one of the laws. But you'll also find out the word middle finger and where's the line on this happen. It's talking about if you do something like you stand in the middle of traffic and you run around crazy. That would be a public inconvenience. You would be charged with disorderly conduct. If you're a woman, you run around topless on top of the roof of your apartment complex. That would probably be disorderly conduct and possibly something else. It's causing a public inconvenience. A good example in apartment complexes is people that have loud music. Depending on where you live, you have the loud noise ordinances. Well, this is another kind of thing like that. I have a couple of more that I want to show you. This is another one, the state versus ribbon ball. You need to check this one out. Ribbon ball was in a car at a red light when the light turns green and people began to honk their horns because she was holding up traffic. A police officer testified he saw ribbon ball make a middle finger gesture and a mouth obscenity. He did not actually hear it. He just saw it through in her rear view mirror. He just saw this from inside. I'm assuming inside of his vehicle, and saw it through the rear view mirror because they were that close. The officer stopped ribbon ball for disorderly conduct and found she was drunk and arrested her. Now, you would think logically, if you're going to stop someone and arrest them, would you charge them with disorderly conduct or would you charge them with public intoxication? In this case, I'm not seeing the word public intoxication. This is on record. The officer stopped her for disorderly conduct and found she was drunk and arrested her. The appellate court affirmed the trial's decision to dismiss the case based on its conclusion that this gesture, the middle finger, did not intend to incite an immediate breach of peace. This is another story.
He should have got her for DUI or something like that. You would think.
And this is where the law is very clear and open. I have a couple of more for you. The State versus Wood. This is Ohio. Finding that Wood's middle finger gesture to two Kent State University police officers in University Library constituted fighting words under state disorderly conduct statute. The court acknowledged that the standard for fighting words is heightened in cases which a police officer is the offending party because officers should expect to encounter some degree of verbal abuse. So here's a different case. The middle finger was used as an incite to either want to get a fight, and some other words were connected to it, and there were witnesses proving, and I wouldn't doubt there was actually a fight that actually occurred. It's not like you just walk past somebody and the hand happened and nothing else, occurred.
But it doesn't say that there was a fight. Exactly.
No, it doesn't say that. It did not say that. Now, here's another Ohio one I found. The Ohio Court of Appeals upheld a disorderly conduct conviction distinguishing non-personal language not directed towards a particular officer from offensive language specifically directed toward a particular officer. The court reasons that the defendant sought out the officers and continued to use abusive language and the middle finger gesture even after officers asked the defendant to desist. Now, if this is what happened in our case, and the person kept being belligerent, then this instance that I'm showing you can be used.
As it said, that's not what it said in the document and also in the news.
Yeah,
it didn't say that.
And see, that's where we get into the next article that I want to show you. Wired.com actually posted just recently. As of March 2nd, 2010, that's more recent than some of the other statutes and things I showed you from 1996, you'll find out, and the reason why I'm sharing you this Wired.com article is there's a PDF file in here that has all that stuff that I just shared with you. Check this out. This is Wired.com by David Kravitz, March 2nd, 2010 at 5:07 p.m. The courts... Flipping off cops is legal, not advised. I'll say again, flipping off cops is legal, but not advised. What they find in this article is they're talking about an Oregon man suing the Portland cops, and there's a file for that you can read, over his use of his rights, that it's a civil rights violation. He flipped them off twice for no reason and was pulled over each time, resulting in a bogus traffic citation that was dismissed later on. And a tongue lashing remains. He said the guy flew into road rage and blah, 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 blah. But the interesting thing is, and the point that I want to share with you, and we will be posting the PDF file for those of you that are actually interested, where I got those prior stories is from American University legal scholar Ira Robbins, wrote a definitive paper on flipping the bird. And he actually calls it Digitus Impudicus, the middle finger in the law. And I'm going to load this and just give you a little quick snippet, because I'm not going to read this. This is 83 pages long. I reviewed this before our show this afternoon and got those snippets of where he got his information from. I didn't mention anything from his article itself, just his citations of where he got things. But honestly, we might cover this whole story, the Digitus Impudicus, the middle finger in the law by Ira P. Robbins, at another programming, if this continues to elevate to another level. Because in this whole 83-page PDF, anything about the middle finger has been covered in the law, and he did a good job on it. I just wanted to share that so you see my documentation sources.
So let's go to the conflicting reports and two different Ohio news.
I'm going to get to the conflicting reports here in a moment. I want to share with you first a couple of ACLU articles, because a lot of people have been wondering, what does the ACLU itself have to say about this? Well, first I'll show you a Fox News story, and there's several places that have this. CBS, even Law Newsweek. I might even share that one. We'll post all the links because I'm mentioning them. This is on Fox News. This was last year around May 26th. ACLU to defend man who gave finger to a trooper. And I kind of mentioned this last night and tonight. Colorado State trooper got the finger. This guy was facing criminal prosecution and jail time. And the interesting thing about this is he's supposed to have like up to 6 months in jail. Well, the ACLU ends up writing their own article about this. And I'm going to show it to you. Because this is how serious this whole event is. And the reason why we got involved, because I don't want the city to have to foot a bill for something because I know the ACLU wants to get involved. How much are they going to get involved? That really depends on the person involved in this trial. And if it gets out of hand, this ACLU may be able to do something by themselves. But here it is, without further ado, the ACLU themselves. ACLU will defend Colorado man arrested for giving trooper the finger. Updates. Now this was posted back last year around May 24th, that week, around that time. I'll have to look down here and get the exact date. But they wrote an update follow-up on here, and if you guys can't see it very well, let me read it. It says, update. After 24 hours of tremendous media coverage on Friday, May 27th, the Colorado State Patrol decided to ask Jefferson County prosecutors to drop the charge of harassment against Shane Bohr. Now, in this case, there was harassment. In our case, it's disorderly conduct. But the fact is, the ACLU is already saying that there's some kind of constitutional amendment going on. I'm not going to go any further on the article because someone is flipping the bird in the article, and I'm going to show it. But the issue is it a matter of peace? Is it a matter of what you're really doing, what you're not doing, how you're supposed to do it? Where you're supposed to go. And the creepy part about this whole event was, and I think this is the article I was looking at, I got to find it here shortly. One of these trials, the defendant was awarded $40,000.
Yeah.
$30,000 went to the ACLU for low court cost, and $10,000 went to the local guy.
And the city had to pay that?
And the city had to pay that.
For their officers doing that.
Yes, the city had to pay all this.
This is why, we're hoping that the Chillicothe, Ohio, where we live, we can settle this peaceably and reasonably, because this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And people is like, why are you covering this? Why is a Christian ministry covering this? Because that's not something a Christian would do, is flip the bird. I'm like, no. We don't agree with flipping the bird at people. We don't agree with that gesture. But the problem is that we have with this, if they are going to ticket and possibly jail people here in Chillicothe for a gesture, and that is a part of the First Amendment right of freedom of expression and freedom of speech, then what other freedoms of speech will they take out? Will we be arrested for not agreeing with homosexuality, saying it's a sin? Will we?
And yes, there are places in America that already want to do that.
There are, and they're trying, and people are being taken to court because they say homosexuality is a sin. They're saying now, if you say that, and if a Christian says that, the Bible says that that is a sin, that means you are harassing that person. Well, it could be in the same category as this woman flipping the bird at someone and getting a ticket for it. It's the same thing. So our worries are about our constitutional rights as citizens of the United States of America.
Yes.
That is the only reason we're covering this. And the other purpose is because neighbors, other citizens of Chillicothe, Ohio, are upset about this. They're worried, what am I going to get pulled over for if I just even throw my hand up, or if I just yell and get mad in traffic? I mean, what am I going to get ticketed for? And a misdemeanor can keep you from getting a job. Anything like that can hinder you from getting a job. I mean, that looks really bad when. So what did you get a misdemeanor for? Well, I stuck my middle finger at somebody. That's just ridiculous. We just, we don't agree with it, but we have the rights as citizens
Yeah,
of the United States
that's what we
to
wanted
express
to do.
ourselves.
I have no problem when this whole event happened with the homosexual child being gay, whatever word you want to call him, the kid getting beat up in school. I've been beat up in school.
Yeah.
And while I do not agree with homosexuality, I defended that child's right to not be beat up because he was living in sin or living differently than somebody else, because that's wrong.
There's just been a lot of stuff going on.
There's been a lot of stuff going on, because if you really want to act like a Christian, you should be willing to talk about this subject. You should be willing to talk about that subject. I have friends on my pages that are homosexual, bisexual, gay, straight, all that stuff, and they know I believe that's a sin, but you know why they're my friends? Because they have talked to me and I treat them like human beings. I don't see that on them. You don't know that that's what they are unless you're going to be like, and all these noises and things. No, you don't know these things. And when it comes to this kind of story, you got to wake up. Now, here's the controversy that's going on in the media that we want to cover. 10 TV says that a police report states that Chief Moore was off duty and driving his personal car on May 23rd. This article was written May 29, 2012 and updated May at 5/17. It was updated at 5/18. This article has not been updated. I don't know about the updated article from 10 TV, but they're saying he was in a personal car. The original story that we talked about yesterday ends up saying that, from the Gazette, ends up saying that he was in an unmarked vehicle. Okay? Well, the Gazette has no other reason why not to continue saying this. And this is me being fair and balanced, because I'm showing you controversy. Why is it controversy? Which one's telling the truth? Mm-hmm. That's what I want to know. What really went on? What
well,
really
all
happened?
I'm going to say is, if he was on duty, he could have given her the ticket, but he had to call the police department to give her a ticket.
And he admits that he was not on duty and he had to call someone else, which is what he did. Now here's the...
But he said he had the power to pull over anybody at any time, and that is not right. Because we found a law that states about what a police officer, State Highway Patrol, can do while in an unmarked vehicle.
And see, that's the thing.
And they cannot pull someone over if they are off duty.
See, here's the thing. I know a lot of people probably watch movies, and I'll get into this Gazette article. I can go ahead and say it. In the Gazette article here, they're saying near the bottom, the fourth paragraph, Moore was in an unmarked department vehicle. Said he had intended to warn the woman about the dangers of road rage, but he alleges she wasn't cooperative and called for an officer to cite her for disorderly conduct, language, and gestures. And honestly, if he is cussing her out, we also have freedom of speech to cuss out officers, but if he's using like, you stupid SOB, I wish you were like dad or something like that.
But there's nothing that says that she even said anything like that.
Apparently there was the movement of the finger and some cuss words and some
But
other
she
things
did it
that
before
happened.
he pulled her over.
But this is saying here that it happened after he talked to her. Until it actually goes to court and you actually have logged, here's what happened at this time at 12:58. I'm making up times. These aren't the right times. 12:58, person came out in front of me. Saw 12:59, person flipped me off. 1:02. Reason why I'm doing this, when I was in the Coast Guard, as an operations specialist, having a clearance and all this other stuff, I was required to understand government law, to understand that I'm going to have to go to court of law and represent things. I still might have to do that for some of the things that happen, even though I've been out for a long time. Why? Because cases could come at any point. So this is something, everything has to be documented, the time, the date. There should be cameras from Burger King, possibly across the street. Anyone else that's willing to be an eyewitness, if there's other cars on the road that are willing to come forward. There's a lot of variables that can be brought into this thing. So you're looking, at the Gazette still says, and what the Gazette's saying is truth, because that's what's on public record. They can't say anything else. 10 TV, for whatever reason, says it's a private vehicle.
They got some kind of information saying that he was not. Somebody gave them information that he was actually in.
Now I have to talk a little bit, and I'm still looking up the exact law about this. Like I was saying a minute ago, say you probably see movies like Beverly Hills Cop and other things like that, where this guy will say, I need to commandeer your vehicle. I'm a U.S. government official, whatever, and they take your car. That becomes an unmarked vehicle. Fully ranked, able to do all police stuff. And you don't have no lights and sirens. And, you know, in some instances, you know, if there's any damage done in the car, the city pays for it, and others, they don't.
But
does that make it right? I don't know.
But they didn't say that in the laws. It says clearly, if you're an unmarked police vehicle, it has to be marked with either coloring or lighting. Some kind of light has to be on the vehicle.
Exactly.
And the police officer has to be on duty. Mm-hmm. Cannot pull someone over if they are not on duty.
Oh yeah.
So
that's why.
But this is just an update. There's nothing else to report on this until it goes to court, and we're hoping that we won't have to talk about this again.
Yeah, I'm hoping that a lot of the stuff that I've just shown will probably be used as evidence, like especially the court cases. You know, if they figure out, you know, they want to use those. It has been deemed, as I said before here in Ohio, that the middle finger can be used as disorderly conduct if it is connected to other things. And you see in the article shown in the Gazette, it's related to language and other activities. Depending on what's found out, you know, and the truth, this will, you know, will prove and deem.
We just have to let the justice system do its job.
Exactly.
And just share the facts.
Exactly.
But the point of sharing it is if in Chillicothe, Ohio, this is not dismissed, then I fear for anybody who says any kind of gesture, shows any kind of gesture, or any kind of thing against anybody, because they're going to start enforcing this more and more. And they're going to be tying up the courts for gestures and a little bit of language. Exactly. And that's really pathetic.
You're exactly right.
So, let's...
Well, I'm going to move on.
We're almost at the halfway point of the show.
Almost at the halfway point. We'll be able to cover all the articles we have today. We were thinking about dropping one, but I think we'll be able to...
No, let's drop...
We're not going to have to drop anything. I'm just going to say it real quick. The reason why is because we live in Appalachia, and I have to cover this because people have actually asked me at college, do you believe in this? And you're like, what am I talking about? Snake handling. Miranda, tell them what snake handling is. I'm not from here. I don't understand this.
Snake handling is... Some churches around here will get deadly rattlesnakes and deadly poisonous snakes and dance around with them in their churches during services. And what basically they're doing is showing... I always kind of thought it was you were tempting God, but they sometimes believe that it's showing how strong your faith is, that if this snake bites me, I won't die from it. Well, snake handling West Virginia pastor died after being bitten by a poisonous snake during a Sunday service.
Now here's the thing. The Pentecostal Assembly of God, non-denominational belief system in the Appalachia area, Tennessee, Virginia, so on and so forth, they honestly believe that by drinking poisonous fluids, picking up snakes and poisonous spiders and scorpions and honey badgers and all sorts of crazy, anything that could deem dangerous, poking at a lion or a snake.
Okay, move on. You said enough.
Is proven that you have faith with Christ.
And actually, if you read in the scriptures, it says, "Do not tempt the Lord your God." And now, Jesus, because even Satan tempted Jesus with that and said, "If you throw yourself off the cliff, God will save you. He'll send angels to save you." And he says, "Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." If Jesus wouldn't even do something like that by throwing himself off a cliff to see if God would save him, why are we messing with snakes in churches that could kill us?
Now, here's the thing. Their argument is the Mark 16:17 passage that, you know, I have a problem with. Serpent handling holiness. These signs will accompany those who believe. In my name I'll drive out demons, speak in new tongues, pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them at all. They'll place their hands on sick people, and they'll get well. I'll give you an example of picking up snakes with their hands. When I was back in Texas, we were picking up leaves, and I picked up a snake, and I think it bit me or something. I would have died. But I didn't get sick.
I would have died of a heart attack.
Well, of course, you probably would.
I was terrified of snakes.
You know,
just give me the willies.
That's the kicker, you know.
The closest I ever got to a snake was one almost ran crawled over my foot when I was mowing the grass one time.
Yeah, and I think
that was enough for me. And I go in the house running and screaming to my dad to come kill it.
Yeah, and I totally know that, you know, good example is drink deadly poison. Well, here's the most obvious one a lot of people do. Is you get up in the morning, you know, you teenage boys, and you're like, you open the fridge, where's the milk. You get the milk and you jug it. Oh my God, it's 3 weeks old. That's poisonous. If you're a Christian and you make a mistake, that's the point. It's supposed to be an accident. I accidentally picked up a snake. I accidentally drank something.
You don't deliberately going and...
This whole, I'm going to drink and play with animals and all this other stuff. No. You do not tempt the Lord your God, because you saw this guy flat dead. You go to this church, you know what they'll tell you? Well, our pastor didn't have enough faith. That's what they'll say. That's what they'll preach and say, that man had sin in his life, so he died from touching the snake. That's what they preach. You know, it's supposed to be mistakes. And you want to know why? This is all connected, what we're talking about. It connects to our next story. Young people in the church are leaving by waves and droves, saying, you lost me. I don't get it anymore. You know, you're not, I mean, they're kind of using the words like irrelevant, and this guy writes a book about it and everything. But overall, 43% drop off between teenage and young adult years in church engagement. And this is across the United States. I'll tell you why. We've interviewed and talked to many people across the country and the globe, ministry partners all over the place, and they'll sit here and tell me specifically what's the difference between westernized church in, say, a persecuted country. You go to China, and they will have to hide their Bible in 3 feet of dirt because they will get it stolen. They will be tempted to reveal it, and they'll be burned, and then they'll be jailed, and then they'll be tortured and raped and killed and forced to be sodomized and sodomize other people and all sorts of evil things all across the globe. Even here in the United States is happening. I've talked to enough men and women.
The majority of the time, the churches in China are being run by young people.
Yes.
By the young adults. But yet we have young adults, majority of young adults, almost half of the young adults in America are leaving the church. Mm-hmm. So Jeremy, tell us why.
So why the young people are leaving the church? There's two things. You either have the fast food, fun, get it quick now, 15-minute
iPod,
sermon.
iPad, iPhone generation.
Not iPod, iPad. It's okay, church, okay, youth group. We're gonna get together and we're gonna get super soakers, and we're gonna have a big race at the tag team place, and we're gonna go play laser tag, and then we're gonna go down the slide, and then hey, we're gonna come back here to the church and we're gonna play Halo 3, and then tomorrow we're gonna go play Super Mario World. Yay! Oh yeah, you know what? Jesus Christ loves you. Okay, have a nice day, and that's it.
So it's about entertainment.
You'll walk into a service for a youth group, and I'm not talking about 6th graders through junior. I'm talking about the whole 6th grade through 12th grade, and because they have a limited amount of resources, which is true for a lot of churches. There's not many volunteers anymore, so they have a rambunctious 100 to 300 to 1,000 youth. What's the first thing you do when you have that many kids? You're gonna give them a game. You want them to get that energy out of them. You want to get the energy out of them. I understand that. Okay, so you entertain them for half an hour. They're hot and sweaty and stinking up the place. Okay, that's great. Praise Jesus. B.O. Y'all sweaty and stinky. Alright. But then, because you're limited on time, because normally these services last half an hour to an hour, then you got 10-15 minutes to even do a sermon, and it's on one topic, and that's it. Then on the other side, you got Sunday school. How many of your churches have Sunday school anymore? I'm talking about this 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock hour where you go in and have a Bible study. A Bible study.
Not a lot do it
Book of Job.
Anymore.
On who is David. Who's Meshach.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Do you know who they are?
Who were they before they were given their names?
What are the names of the 12 disciples? I did a hopscotch game to that to learn that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
I understand cool games that are things like that. That's the problem. And then how many of you churches out there have a Wednesday night service?
Ooh.
Thursday night service. You know what we've done? We've allowed these big TP buildings in the United States and the rest of the westernized world that has all the money. We keep building these big buildings. I'll walk in a building, I can't even touch the ceiling. I know I'm 5'6", but you can put about 4 or 5 of us, and then you can reach the top of the building. Or it's, I gotta have the biggest cross in the area. Or I gotta have the biggest electrified sign on the side of the road. Or it's, I understand you want to be able to reach the world and reach the culture. You need to be able to have more services. And if your building costs more money than the amount of people are showing up, then you don't need that building. I don't care if you're in a lease. I don't care if it's paid for. Downsize. Go sell it. Mm-hmm. Why don't you sell it to make a homeless shelter?
And that's
sell
why all these
that's
why a lot of these big mega churches are filing for bankruptcy. Because they can't afford their $1 million building anymore. Well, the church doesn't need a big building like that.
One of the things they talk about in the article about why people, they're putting involvement in the church on hold. They're talking about
it says right here what it boils down to if you go back up.
They say when it comes to teens, the worldview is much caught as it is taught. And that's the problem here.
If you will go back up, I want to read this one part right here.
Where?
It says it goes what it boils down to. Okay. It boils down to this. Young dropouts often feel that the church doesn't understand their concerns and needs and has no real guidance to offer. But Kinnaman believes that there's reason to hope. The majority of young dropouts are not walking away from the faith. They are putting involvement in church on hold. The church is there to help guide and direct the community. They're there to help. But they're dropping out because there's no guidance.
One of the big things that I've seen with culture, from being from Texas, I saw this in Texas, I saw it in California, and I really see it here in Ohio, is when you are in a certain age group, that's the only people you can associate with. We don't have racial issues in America. We have generational gap issues.
Yeah.
A 65-year-old man and woman cannot relate and have a conversation with a 23-year-old anymore.
Because they're separated during the church services most of the time. They don't even understand what the other one is going through.
And here's the thing. When I understand you want to have a youth group to allow them to have their fun and stuff, all that stuff. And then you have Sunday morning. What about teaching? What about leaders and stuff? I know a lot of churches, they got rid of deacons and bishops and all sorts of leadership positions. I was a young deacon and all that stuff in my old church back in the day and everything. Why? Because I was taught how to respect my elders. That's the problem with America and westernized church, is you'll run into a church where all you have is old people. Mm-hmm. Or you run into a church where all there is young people. If you have that problem, you don't probably need to go.
Or if you have a church with young and old, they're separated. It's like there's two different churches in one church. They're not
have
together.
3 problems. It's either all yold, it's all young, or it's all old, or it's mixed, but they're not together except for Sunday morning. So here's what I suggest. Youth pastors, here's the hardest thing that you need to do as a youth pastor, is convince your regular congregations to allow your church service, to allow the youth to come in and assist leading the services for that day. You want to help bridge the gap of respect for a teen, and this is what my youth pastor taught me, because I got to preach a sermon the week before Christmas, and I was 16 years of age. I'll say that again. I was 16 years of age, and I preached a sermon Sunday night before the whole congregation. And then when I came back from Africa, I preached Sunday morning.
Wow.
So, like I was saying, you got to be able to do this both thing. You got to be able to allow the youth to come into the regular services and lead the services. Then you need to take the regular church and say, we're not having regular Sunday church. We're going to go directly right into youth church. And we're going to invade the youth church and work with them. That's what we got to do. So now I got another story that I want to cover with you briefly. And we got all the time in the world to do it. And this is connected. Military chaplains. And the reason why I'm sharing this real quickly is because I want to go on to my other articles. But This is completely relevant to what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
Check this out. Military chaplains are also in agreement with this today, saying we need to have a strong army. We need to have strong families. Now, I want to change this whole story. It's all about the military. If the military needs to have a strong army, and that's equal to strong families, then to have a strong church, you need to have a strong family. To have a strong church family, there needs to be a strong individual family. There needs to be a strong structure between your youth pastor, your deacons. The young people need to be respected by the old people, and the old people need to respect the young people, and they need to learn how to work together. The reason why the youth are falling away in America is nobody wants to help them anymore. You just want to entertain them. And when you get people in my age group, like right now in my college, nobody wants to vote anymore. Nobody wants to go to church anymore. They will tell me right here in Chillicothe, Ohio, I am sick and tired of church. There's 25 million churches. I know there's not 25 million. Well, they'll say, I quote, there's a church on every corner of Main Street, but what in the are they doing? And that's what they ask me. And I start telling them stuff that they do, that they're helping, and many are helping, but there's people that can't find services. So you know what happens? They come to me in Miranda. We have hundreds of people in Ohio and across the globe who come to us because people have hurt them in the church. And yes, this is a form of pain in the church, not doing anything or not doing your job properly. You know, and this is not me to attack denominations and attack big churches. There's things that needs to be worked on in the church. There are churches that got it together, and
I
there are
think
churches
we need
that
to
don't have it
remember
together.
we need to remember the scripture. It says in the scripture, if you can't get your own household in order and run your own household, how can you run God's house?
Exactly. So how can you run the military without having a strong family? I had friends that when I was in the military, their spouses were stuck back here when their husbands were stuck on the boat. And you know what they did? The women and children came together and met almost every day together and had some food together and had games together. And then for us single guys, all these women and children, because they knew we didn't have our family and we were stuck somewhere else, they came over and we did stuff together. If we can mimic what the military is doing right and invade that into our church, could you imagine? And I understand youth don't want nothing to do with grandma. They don't want nothing to do with daddy and all this other stuff. But if you can help raise up a new generation of believers in America who truly believe in Jesus Christ, a lot of things can happen. A lot of great things can happen. I totally know it can. And speaking of totally amazing things happening, it's going to take me a while. So Miranda, you get this ready for me and talk about it real quick because I got to find it. I wasn't prepared for that one.
Well, let's skip it then.
Oh, I got to
Just
get it up
skip it.
here. But honestly, I'm kind of concerned as to, because I got a lot of stuff I got to get loaded in there.
Well, don't cover it. Let's say
a lot of things that have happened in America are our own fault. That's one thing that I was taught in the military. And this next story I want to talk to you about is about a man who is a Democrat who's accepting responsibility and integrity of when something was wrong, independently for himself. Now, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, you have to respect this man's beliefs on he feels that he needs to change. You need to respect and understand the things that needs to happen. You know, that's one of the things in the military I had to do is accept responsibility for my actions. When I've done things wrong, I want to change. Well, Arthur Davis is defected from the Democrat Party. Former co-chairman for his presidential campaign announced Tuesday he's leaving the party for good. He's not coming back. He said if he was to run, he'd run as a Republican. He's changing his voter registration from Alabama to Virginia. Now, why is he doing this? He just feels that things in the party are not going the way that he wants it to. And I respect somebody who is willing to stand up and make changes, because you know what? This is the most difficult thing to do in politics today that I've seen. If you're a Republican and you like a bill that a Democrat has, you're a bad Republican. You don't do that. Shut your mouth. No, don't vote for that. That's why we have right now this big deadlock. We have Republicans voting on bills right now for our student loans. We have Democrats voting on bills for student loans right here in Ohio. I covered it on Eternal Flame News. And guess what the vote was? It was majority no Republican bill, majority no Democrat bill. Why? Because everybody's fighting for this weird balance of power. So this guy, Arthur Davis, he's just tired and sick of the Democrat Party because he says things have changed from what he said he saw in the beginning.
As my grandparents have even said, this is not the Democrat Party that we remember from back in even the 80s and even early 90s. This is not.
Yeah,
this is not your grandparents' Democrat Party anymore.
No.
And many Democrats are even saying, I've always been a Democrat. I'm not doing this anymore.
You know, and depending on where you live, if you heard the words when I was at college, verbatim from the chairman and co-chairman of Organizing for America, the college group campus, they were saying that we may not necessarily vote for Democrats, we will vote for socialists, progressives, and independents, and we are endorsing Obama, we are not endorsing the Democrat Party. End quote. That scares me when you're telling me that my voice is cracking because I'm so scared about this, that you're just voting for this guy and you're going to be voting for other people and you don't even back your own party. What is coming next? Now, maybe this is just a radical, liberal, extremist left thing going on at Ohio University Chillicothe branch, but I've seen it across the state of Ohio and across America. Something is happening. Right now, there's a big group of Democrats and independents and even some Republicans who are admitting who are the independents and socialists and progressive socialists and not even original Democrats and Republicans anymore. Everybody is ratting everyone out right now, and there's going to be a big stir up of Republicans and Democrats, and the dividing line of what this stuff means and the possibility of even new parties being created is possibly going to come up soon, which talks about another crazy story that's happening right now.
And the reason we're covering this is because Jeremy loves Marvel Comics, loves DC Comics, and has for years, but now they this week Marvel and DC Comics has come out with gay superheroes.
Yeah, the Marvel came out with like a guy that no one really knew, but then over here, DC Comics is announcing that the Green Lantern is a gay hero. This is mean. I'm not gonna, like the Green Lantern. Not necessarily, but I know there's a group of people right now who...
You need to scroll down because they show actual...
I'm not showing that. I'm not going to show...
In their latest, if you go to this article, they will show the latest artwork of...
They're making out.
They're showing... And they're selling this to kids. They're selling this to little kids, and they're showing two men making out. And it has got a lot of parents upset, a lot of people mad, because they feel that they shouldn't be pushing these kind of topics in comic books when they're kid-based. They shouldn't be pushing sexuality and things like that, for the simple fact that you're selling to little kids. But if Jeremy will then show the Marvel comic, Marvel Comics is planning a wedding for their first gay superhero to his partner.
Yeah, I'm not getting it to work. Give me a minute. Where's this at?
It's under the EFN out show. One. It's on down. Right there. That's not it. Or it's the JMC Live one.
Okay.
Right there. Right there.
There it is.
Okay. So, Marvel Comics, this is from the Orange County Register, Philadelphia. Wedding bells will ring this summer for Marvel Comics' first openly gay superhero, Speedster Northstar, and his longtime boyfriend. And they have an image of...
here. I don't even know which character this is. Never heard of him. Northstar.
Maybe it's a new one.
I don't know which one it is. Is it the one on the left, on the right? I don't know. I really don't. But yeah, there you go.
It's a Canadian character named Jean-Paul Boubert.
Here's the thing, though.
On the right will marry his beau, Kyle Janadu, on this edition due on June 20th. These are coming out.
Now, here's the thing. This isn't new. This is not new news. He revealed he was gay in 1992. 10 years later, in 2002, gay characters Apollo and the Midnighter were married in the Pages Authority by DC's Wildstorm imprint. Then also they have written gay, lesbian, and transgender DC Comics, Kate Kane, aka Batwoman, hulking, and Wiccan in the pages of Young Avengers. So they've rewritten different characters as gay and lesbian and Wiccan and so on and so forth. But I'm not really seeing one that's been a Christian yet, though, which is quite interesting.
The other thing is, if they're going to make action heroes, superheroes now gay, and making that into the comic books and different things that they're publishing, what's next? Cartoons? Are we going to be seeing this? Because Marvel and DC Comics have cartoons on, Cartoon Network and different channels, and will they be bringing that to a TV near you soon?
And see, this is why I've always talked about DC Comics and Marvel. For most part, a lot of the stories are completely non-Christian, and this is why I've not endorsed DC and Marvel for a while, because a lot of things have gone extremely bad.
Changed.
When it first came out, it was a lot different. I mean, now there's some clearing stuff and blah blah blah. The argument are the X-Men and things like that. Spider-Man are the Wiccan sorcery kind of things, and now we're getting darker than this. So my suggestion to parents out there is you don't need to have cable. You need to find an alternative source of things, of material that your children, and even as you as an adult, just because you're an adult now, that doesn't mean you can slide and watch it too. I believe these things can be very sinful because it opens doors to things. Is reading a comic book about someone who's gay going to make you gay? No. But you have to be careful with what you're doing and how you're influencing yourself, because what happens is the more you read things like this, the more you get to this point where it just doesn't bother you anymore. You're just like, you see it all the time. And that's the point of the new gay agenda, which is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. The point of it is to influence all forms of media, from kids to middle-aged to older adults, and show that it's not a bad thing, that these people exist. And yes, they do exist.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with ministries that talk about this is all they want to do is talk about hell and brimstone when it comes to this. And I guarantee a lot of them are probably either closetly gay or possibly pedophilia, or just have hate in their heart because they don't understand the Bible like we're trying to explain to you, that Christ wants to love these people. And this is a good opportunity to have a conversation about, what does this mean and how does this work? So you could have a dialogue at your church. You could have a dialogue with your kids in a responsible manner about, sin of the flesh, and, how do we talk to one another, and what if someone in your family is gay? Or what if one of your friends at school is gay? What do you do? Do you go like, you're gay? No, you don't do that. You don't call them names.
You have
to pick on them.
We have to respect people's choices.
If you really cared about someone in their sin, you'd be concerned that they were not going to end up in heaven, which means that they would die in eternal life in hell. And if you are actually using the phrase, you're going to hell, as like the world uses it, as a curse word, and those that aren't Christians, or maybe those that say they are Christians, because now we live in a world with gay Christians. If a gay Christian, a non-Christian that is a homosexual, whatever, if you're homosexual, and you can say to a Christian that you are not, doing it the right way, and then, that's the thing. The problem is, we'll have non-Christians say, well, you can't judge me because you're not supposed to judge, lest not, do not be judged. They'll use that whole verse of, judge not, lest be judged. Well, the Bible's very clear, and the interesting thing, and I've said this before at the homeless shelter, there was this woman who would not spank her kids. Did not want to spank their kids whatsoever. And that was one of the articles I know I was supposed to talk about tonight. Or was that last night? Anyway.
You were going to talk about it, but... we talked about... I don't know when we talked about it.
But, spanking their kids and all this other stuff. But so crazy. A pastor just got arrested for talking about, spanking your kids, which I think is crazy. I'm not going to share the article or anything, but I'm going to relate it to this. Is you have to be careful with what you're doing in your life and how you communicate and express things. So when I was at this shelter, we had a chalkboard on the wall, and this parent would not discipline their children. He would just put them in timeout. It didn't work. And the minister said you might need to discipline your children more abruptly, longer timeouts, take things away from them, and last resort, you may have to form what's called corporal punishment. That's the phrase that was used back in the day. I don't know if it is used in school anymore.
No.
Corporal punishment was a phrase for spanking. Can't do it in public and all that other stuff, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I know. Well, he said to do that. Well, she said, don't judge me. She wrote on a chalkboard. So he wrote, lest not shall we be judged. She showed that verse, but he also showed, judge with righteous judgment, so as the Lord gives you. That is only through the Lord's eye and not man's. It's paraphrased. I'm not going to show it to you. I want you to find it. Because I'm tired of everyone coming to us saying, quit judging me. And there's a funny image going around saying, well, how unjudgmental of you for judging me for being judgmental. And it's got a picture of the Willy Wonka guy on it. I think it's hilarious because he's like, and all that. It's like, how unjudgmental of you for being judgmental. There is a fine line on how you do this. I understand that. But as the old Southern or Appalachian phrase is, call the kettle black or something like that.
The pot calling the kettle black.
Or, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck or something. I understand that. You say, I think Americans and the rest of the world needs to learn how to minister to people. Because guess what, Christians? Yes, I use one finger at you. You are a minister. You don't need a license. You don't need to go to seminary. You don't need to go to college. And some of you are college dropouts, high school dropouts, junior high dropouts, never went to school at all. If you're a Christian, you've been ordained by God. If you have confessed with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and your Savior, and confessed your sins and repented, you are now a minister of the kingdom of the gospel. You have different gifts, I know that. But one of the gifts we all have is to minister to the people that we know. And including talking about your testimony. And it's so quite interesting enough to see how these things keep coming about, but we fail to understand the importance of what Christ means and how we're supposed to move in ministry. I want you to elaborate about what I'm talking about while I'm trying to get this last article set up here for us. I want you to talk about what does it mean to share your testimony with the unsaved when it's even a sensitive subject, because the argument is, and I've heard this from family members and friends, and I don't know about you listeners today, have you been told, or is this your personal belief, I will tell someone about Jesus when someone asks me about it. You want to talk about all that a little bit for a minute?
Well, the point is, you shouldn't have to wait to tell people about Jesus. If you're living the Christian life, that right there is telling people about Christ. You don't have to wait to tell people about Jesus and what He's done to you. The way you're living your life will be a reflection of Christ. And through that will open doors up for you to have conversations with people. Say, well, there's just something different about you. What is it? And like, why do you love me? Why, people, Christians normally don't want to talk to me. And I was like, well, we're supposed to love one another. That was the greatest commandment. So the greatest commandment is to love one another. So I'm here to love you and, and help you. But, we do have to tell them about Jesus and basically tell them what Jesus has done in your life, how Jesus has changed your life. And through that, your own personal testimony. Our personal testimonies probably are the most powerful weapon we have to get to help people come to Christ. Because they can see proof of God right in front of them, a life changed, and that gives them a reason to have faith and want to follow what the Bible and give their lives to Christ.
And while we live in a world where we live in the world where celebrities and the biggest fashion, the argument is of these, what do they call these churches now today, Miranda? There's a word for them, relevant church. What's that word I'm looking for? Those churches.
Prosperity churches?
Yeah, no, there's another word I'm looking for. Prosperity is one of them. Relevant churches. Emergent churches, those words. They're all about the cultural norms and breaking into the current society and using current media and using current everything. And yeah, we're using current stuff here too, but we are sticking with the old traditions of the church, and we're not going to change what worked for Jesus should work for us. I'll give an example. The New York Times is covering an article about Twitter. Yes, Twitter. And the article is about God is greater than glitter. Says prominent celebrities like Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber have millions of Twitter followers.
Did you just say Beaver?
Bieber. That's how you say his name, Bieber.
I thought you said Bieber.
Bieber.
Sorry.
Have millions of Twitter followers. Religious leaders show much higher levels of engagement. Their audience forward, favorite, and reply to messages of God's love at much higher rates. The article Twitter Demos offering word of God's love discussed. These additional examples show tweets, which are 140 characters found on Twitter, for those of you that aren't aware, that received a similar sized response. But in each case, the religiously focused tweet was shared with a fraction of the celebrity's audience, yet performed just as strongly. Now let me give you an example. Like, I need an example. Well, let me show you some. Here we go. Let's start with these two. Big prominent people. Joyce Meyer. Joyce Meyer Ministries. My mother liked her. She normally talks about how down you are, self-help, you got to try and work your way. She wrote, God's timing is perfect. He's never late. Even when things seem out of control, God is working and has a plan for your life. Responses, 50,000 followers. 521. You got to realize they received at least 10,000 reactions, retweets, mentions, and favorites. Her audience of 993,000 followers engaged with her and tweet 20 times more than Lady Gaga's audience of 25.1 million. What did Lady Gaga say? Her responses of 50,000 followers with only 19. She wrote, asked my tailor what he did on flight to Korea. He replied, took Ambien and watched Trendy. I replied, glue pearls to a mask. Be a drag. More people tweeted Joyce Meyer's response than Lady Gaga. But we want to bring Lady Gaga's style into the church. Why? Because, well, there's 25 million people. I understand the beat of Lady Gaga. Give me all the Lady Gaga soundtrack that has no cussing, and I can put Christian words to it. I'll go resell it. That works for me. Okay, here's another one for you. That's not good enough. You don't like the... How about this? Max Lucado and Rihanna. Max Lucado and Rihanna. You seen this? Max Lucado had a Good Friday message, and his response of his 435,000 followers was more than 50 times greater than the popular tweet of Rihanna, which was sent to 19.8 million followers. Hear about this, envision the Savior of the cross, bloodied and cast in shadows. Listen as heaven whispers, for you, my child, for you. Rihanna wrote, I rise up this morning, D-I-S, morning with no G's. Apostrophe by the end. Smile with the rising sun. And there go our great city officials down the road for a call. I ask that you pray for, if it's police or fire, I really don't know. I ask you pray for their safety and the well-being of the people who just went down the road. Anne Stanley and Kim Kardashian next to. Anne Stanley, Kim Kardashian has 87 times more followers than Anne Stanley. But with this tweet, he received 1,000 responses. His audience was more engaged. About 50,000 followers, 295. Responses, Kim Kardashian, about 2.
2?
2.
2 responses.
This doesn't mean actually 2. It's a number average. But anyway, it means that there were more...
People that responded
more
to
favorited, tweeted, retweeted Anne Stanley versus Kim Kardashian.
Well, what did Anne Stanley...
Anne talked about atheism. Turns out to be too simple. If the universe has no meaning, we should never have found out that it has no meaning. C.S. Lewis quote. Kim Kardashian talked about, I'm so sleepy. What's wrong with me? I can never be asleep. New York City has too much going on. Now I understand The argument's going to be, well, that's just some tweets, not all the tweets. Here's Rick Warren. Katy Perry had 20.5 million people via Twitter. Her average level of pairs and components into Rick Warren's 626,000 followers. He wrote, growing older is automatic, growing up is a choice. 50,000 followers, 259 versus Katy Perry's 50,000 with 6. She wrote, me and 12 strong chicks dance out military style on American Idol. So even though it was a quote about American Idol and it was aiming at, which means connected to the American Idol, Rick Warren's post in that day got more retweets and favorited and comments than Katy Perry being on American Idol.
Wow.
Let's say this again. Rick Warren's talking about growing older being a choice and physically growing up is automatic. Me and 12 girls being on American Idol, Katy Perry apparently talking about growing up was more important than Katy Perry being on American Idol. Now this is the problem the church has to wake up and realize today. When we keep running into these facets and facades of ministry and an excuse of we want to go and engage the culture, I know you're looking at filling seats means money to a lot of people. This is why JMC Ministries is not a profit. We're not a non-profit. We don't get paid for any of this. We do this because Christ freely gave, so we will freely give to you. This will never be charged here. We are working on a few things, like I'm working on a book and some other things that may have to have some kind of something or another. But anyway, what was that for? I don't know, she's poking me over here, getting me distracted. What are your thoughts on this before I go any further?
I think the people have spoken. I don't think we need to say anything because the numbers show people are more interested in truth and not things that are, like they say, glitter. Things that just are kind of nonsense.
Nonsense. What I don't understand is why we have to live in this world where this occurs and this keeps happening over and over again, where time and time again, simple phrases connected to universal truths or things connected to the Word of God directly always seem to outsource and overpower the world and the current culture. The problem with current culture is, it's just like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, is Elvis Presley the most popular thing in the world today? No.
Sometimes.
But you go see one of Miranda's family members, she's got an Elvis Presley bag. But has the whole world got an Elvis Presley bag? No. Those things fade away and pass away. When her family member dies, is anyone going to want that person in your family? I don't know. But Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His mercies, His abilities, His compassion, and the ability of the Holy Spirit to reign across this earth is never ending. Yes, I know the end of days is coming at some point, and all these things can happen, blah, 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 blah. But I'll tell you, Christ can make a difference in the world today. This has been JMC Live this evening. It is after 10 o'clock. I'd like to thank you guys for coming. God bless you. We will see you during the week. The podcast will be uploaded here shortly. Randy, go ahead and fire up the computer to get the podcast ready. We'll see you next week. I'm going to be working on finals Monday and Tuesday. My graduation is Friday. No Eternal Flame news on Friday. We're working on something pre-recorded. Working on getting some interviews in the next 2.5 weeks coming down for you guys. That's all I'm going to say because I don't have anyone booked yet, so I can't give you an idea. But stay tuned. Pray for the city officials. God bless. Talk to you soon.